Hey folks, this is a video on some of the picking vehicles I've had over the years, or rather all of the picking vehicles. The first one I got, it's not my first vehicle, but it was the first one I did any picking in, was a Chevy Chevette, a four-door compact car, 1981, red that had been overpainted gray or silver, probably a autopack write-off or something that had been repaired. But it served me well. Great on gas. I went out in all kinds of weather, minus 40 storms and everything. A little bit crazy, I think, when I was that age. When I was 18, 19, 20. And I hauled all kinds of stuff in there. I did shows out west, and I did 5-table spreads, so 8-foot banquet tables, 5 tables, with stuff on top, underneath, and over the top back edges, because I had crates set up to make kind of a fortress, I guess you could say. And I had all kinds of stuff jammed into this little Chevette, all kinds of smalls. That's why I specialize in smalls, I suppose, is the originally going with a Chevette. I didn't get into big stuff right away, although I did haul gas pumps and a 12-foot sign, Texaco sign, that took up basically all the way from the front dash right through the back hatch. I had to tie it shut when I was hauling it. Thank goodness it was summer, but there was other days when I had the hatch tied shut. That was it was tied shut, but it was open in the middle of winter. So it had a really good heater in it and worked well. So anyway, and the next vehicle I got was an Acadian. The Chevette got written off. I got rear-ended once on one side, and then bought it back for the salvage value, and then got rear-ended shortly after, and the Autopack took it away for $100. Anyway, the next one was the 82 Acadian, which was also kind of a gray-blue, and it was a 4-door as well. Again, I hauled all kinds of stuff in it, gas pumps, and jammed all sorts of stuff in it. Served me real well until I turned left in front of a 3/4 ton truck, and that took out the front end and left me with about a foot by a half-foot bruise on my leg, and must have also caused me to wrench the the shift stick into a 90-degree angle. It bent it right into a 90-degree angle. I must have had my arm on the shift stick at the time when I got hit, but I got hit on the passenger side, but it was bent over towards the passenger side, which I don't know how that happened. I guess a bit of strength as I was being hit. Must have had some adrenaline really pumping to have done that. But anyway, the next vehicle I ended up with was a 83 Dodge pickup, half-ton, with a cap on it. It served me well as well, and it ended up written off as well. During a freezing rain, I was in Shoal Lake, Manitoba, and had just done a couple auctions and picked a couple places. The back was full of stuff, signs and showcases and all kinds of stuff. Some great stuff all jammed in there. And me and girlfriend at the time, were driving around a corner, a kind of a pin curve that was headed out of town so we could go back to our hotel. We were marooned. And a brand new truck driven by a 16-year-old kid, was his father's truck, and literally brand new, came around the corner doing about 80 and hit the brakes and creamed the front end of my truck. and ended up stuck in Shoal Lake for about 3-4 days. That wasn't fun. It was pretty crappy weather, and we were in a hotel with no phone, and we didn't have cell phones then, and the water was horrible. I don't know what was going on with their water, but it reeked enough to make you retch when you were having a shower. So it was pretty bad. But anyway, Shoal Lake's a nice town otherwise. So anyway, check it out. The next vehicle I ended up with was a Ford 1988 Econoline van, an E150 van. It was an ex fire safety van, I guess you could say. They sold fire extinguishers and safety equipment, and I left the fire extinguisher on the doors. Just too much hassle to remove them. Always got asked whether I sold fire extinguishers, but it served me really well as well. And I'll be also at the end of this video, there'll be photos of all the vehicles in the various states of repair and disrepair, after, some of them after they've been creamed and demolished. But you can see them and see what vehicles I've run. Anyway, the 88 Ford van was driven to the point where it was not quite good enough for me to pick in, and it wasn't as reliable as I wanted, but it was still a good vehicle, and sent it to auction and ended up getting $100 for it. It wouldn't start at the time of the auction. And ignore the dings. I've got another phone here that's giving me notifications that I really don't need. So anyway, the next van was a 1992 Ford E150, and it was also a half-ton version. And eventually, I used it when I moved to the new property, and I also hauled a lot of scrap metal in it. And as a result of that and rust issues that the E150s tend to have, the springs in the back popped through the floor and deformed the back door frame, so the back doors wouldn't close anymore, and it got put out to pasture. It had some other issues as well, and I drove it to the back of my property and parked it, used it as storage. It's still there today. Probably the new owner will end up scrapping the vehicle, I suspect. The next one was a 3/4 ton van. It was a E250, and was an ex tool company van, so it had tool brands kind of plastered down the sides. It did okay. The additional drivetrain strength and such helped, but the engine eventually went, and I picked up a parts van and went to do an engine swap at a little garage, local garage, that was being run by some folks that were renting the garage. And one day I went there and the doors were locked. I guess they hadn't been paying rent, and the owner of the building shut them down. The van was still parked outside, so I was able to get it. The engine had been done and swapped, but they left the doghouse, which is the cover over the transmission on the inside of the van. They left that off, and as a result, rodents got in, squirrels or rats. Sorry about that. Just had the video shut off on me here. Anyway, the rodents had gotten into the vehicle and had chewed on the wiring, and the thing wouldn't start. As a result, the insurance company wrote it off, so I ended up with a pittance of what it was technically worth, but they just refused to pay out, or pay out any significant amount. So I was limited on funds at that point, and my parents were selling their half-ton truck, or quarter-ton really. It's kind of it was a GMC, and sort of a midway between a quarter-ton and a half-ton. It was a four-wheel drive though, which was handy, and did have a half-size box though, so I was limited to that space. Hauled lots in it though. Also obtained a trailer at the time, truck box trailer, so I used it a bit with the truck. And eventually I got stuck one day in the snow and ice, and the transmission ended up going. So on to another vehicle. I borrowed my parents' other truck, and it was a blue Chevy. Again, the quarter ton that I used with that trailer, a truck box trailer that I used with kind of a mesh grid around it to maximize the space in that trailer, and eventually put a cap on that trailer, and used it with that truck. And eventually I had saved up enough to buy another van. It was a struggle during that time. Just life was rough, as just things were happening that were beyond my control. But I ended up getting another van, which I still drive today. It's a blue 1-ton passenger van that I removed the seats out of. That's one thing. If you need a van and you can't find a cargo van, you could go for a passenger van and just yank the seats out of it. They're better insulated, so the heat stays in better, but unless you start removing the panels, which I did. It had been used as a hockey player van, so the panels had the odor of some body odor in them, so it wasn't a pleasant smell when it got damp. So I got rid of the panels, cleared that up, and that's what I still drive today. Plan to get another van, or maybe a minivan in the future. So that's it, and just stay tuned here for the following photos of all the vehicles. I'm not going to let them sit on the video for terribly long, so if you want to pause on it to look at the vehicle, go ahead. Anyway, safe picking, happy picking. Enjoy the photos. Take care.